Hi everybody, this is Sherry. I've had a whole bunch of you leaving messages and comments and stuff asking how things went at my doctor's and that you were praying for me. And right now I look like crap, or I would do a face-to-face, but you just wouldn't want to see this right now. It didn't go well. Good. It didn't go good at all on Tuesday. I walked out and I was in tears, and it took me a little bit to comprehend what all he was saying, and it was just a truly, I don't know, other than to say a bizarre experience. I don't know how else to explain, what happened with this doctor. I got there early to fill out my paperwork, and because they were supposed to mail it to me, but it never got here. And so I told them I would come in early to do that, and I did. And I hope you don't mind looking at my lady. She makes me smile. Little fluffy lady at the beach. And but I went in, and the nurses were great, super nice ladies, and they did an EKG, and I had made a list of all my medications because I have very strong medications, so I don't take them anywhere. I don't want, somebody to see me take something and then try to steal my purse, because that's where my medicine is. And because of the medicines I take, I don't take my medication outside of the house. Well, apparently I was supposed to bring my medicine in, but I just sat down and I typed up a list of everything I took, the milligrams, the doctor that prescribed it, and how often I was supposed to take it, and, if it was as needed or whatever. And then my primary care physician told me that I needed to make a log of my blood pressure, and I did that. And of course my husband harped constantly, "Did you write that down? Did you write that down?" So yes, I wrote it all down, and I gave the nurse that, and she made a copy of that as well. And the doctor came in. He hadn't looked at anything. My chart was still in the room where I was, and he looked at the log that I had kept and proceeded to tell me that, I don't know if I can get through this without crying, because I was humiliated by this man. He essentially told me that I was living my life based off of the numbers on my monitor, on my blood pressure monitor, and that, that I just, what those numbers, he told me that the blood pressure numbers didn't mean anything. Those were his words. Those numbers don't mean anything. They're a guideline. They don't mean anything. And they did it took longer to hook all the little leads up than the EKG actually took itself to do. And at that point I was feeling pretty good that day. My chest wasn't hurting, or anything. And then he kept saying there was paperwork, and in the paperwork it was optional to fill out this point. I didn't have to, but it said, did you have a living will or directive? And I, answered that. And it said, if anything were to happen, what was my religious preference? And I wrote down Christian, that I wanted my pastor contacted at the Live Oak Church, the Nazarene. And, that was about it. And, well, then he kept saying that we were going to have a philosophical conversation. And I thought, why is he doing this? And he kept telling me that I wanted some magical person that never existed to come down and take care of all my illnesses, and to give me one thing that was the cause for all of my pain, and that there was no such person. And my brain was working on, how is this connected to my heart? I'm trying to figure that out. So when I got outside, it hit me like a ton of bricks that he was saying that my Savior didn't exist. And I was so upset with myself because I didn't do anything to defend my Savior. But at the time, I was so confused. My brain was still trying to comprehend what this had to do with my heart. And he told me that, he said, you know, he asked me what kind of monitor I had, and I told him that I had one that went on my wrist, and that I had taken it into both of my doctors, and it had been calibrated with theirs, and that's the same kind they use. And he said, well, you bought a cheap monitor, and when you have those cheap monitors, they can fluctuate 35 points. And I said, I paid over $200 for this monitor. And then I thought, well, what made him assume that I bought a cheap monitor? But I didn't, again, I was just still so confused, wondering why we weren't talking about my heart, that it wasn't you know, that what he was saying was not hitting me. I was just confused. And he did proceed to tell me that the brain tumor that I have and the fibromyalgia are two of the most painful illnesses he knows of, and that he was sorry that I hurt so bad, you know. And then he asked me what welfare transportation brought me there. And I thought, what is he talking about? I said, my daughter drove me here in my vehicle. My vehicle's parked out front. My daughter drove me here in my vehicle. And, you know, I couldn't understand, and I still don't understand how any of this had anything to do with my heart. And we met some of the kids from our church afterwards, and one of the teenagers asked how it went, and one of the kids said, doesn't he like Christians? And then it hit me like a ton of bricks. That's why he kept saying we were having a philosophical conversation, and that there was no magical person or no magical pill that was going to make me feel better. That he sat there and cut my Savior apart, and I did nothing. I sat there in total stupidity and did nothing. I didn't defend the man who sent his son to die on the cross for me. And we came home. My chest was pounding. The pain was going up into my jaw and across my shoulder and into my left arm. But I was so humiliated by what happened that I wouldn't even go to the doctors or the hospital because I was embarrassed. And, you know, and again, he just assumed that because I kept track of my blood pressure. And then I finally, you know, that part I comprehended, that, you know, he kept saying, you know, that I wasn't living to my full potential because I was living based off of what those numbers said. And then that I realized, and I said, no, that's not what's happening. I said, I wrote those down because my doctor told me to, so that you would be able to see, you know, the numbers and when things were going bad at what times, and see if there was something that coincided. And so I did understand that part. And then, you know, it was after that that I realized that, you know, he thought I was a hypochondriac, and now he probably thinks that I didn't love my God enough to defend him when he stood right there in front of me and said that there was no one person who could heal all of this and take it all away, when I know there is. And
But so for those of you who have been asking, that's how my appointment with the cardiologist went. And I haven't even been able to call my doctor because I have felt horrible by the fact I didn't do what was right. And my husband told me, Sherry, we all make mistakes. You didn't understand what he was doing. You were thinking on a completely different line and you didn't catch on. And, God forgives. And I know he does forgive. And I know he did forgive me because I asked for forgiveness. And I know God probably didn't even think twice because I was just confused. I've never been in a situation where somebody blatantly attacked my Savior directly in front of me and I didn't catch on. Well, I've never been in anything like that. So, now I don't know what to do. I will call my doctor on Monday and let them know what happened. And I am going to go out and try to get a monitor that goes around my arm. Which of course, he made a comment about my weight, that I probably couldn't find one that big. And so I am going to try to go find one. But if you all could continue to pray, because the chest pains are getting worse. And that the other day was the first time they'd ever, went into my neck and up into my jaw and my arm. Usually it stays right in the front of my chest. And, but if you all could continue to pray, I would really appreciate it. And I appreciate all of the comments and the messages asking how it went. And I apologize for not getting back to you sooner. I have just truly been devastated over what happened while I was there. So, thank you all for everything. I love you all very much. And I appreciate that I can ask you for prayer. And you all willingly give it. It means the world to me. Thanks for everything, guys. Bye.